Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Neil Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. Glad that you could join us today for a conversation with Mr. Andrew Ritter. He's co-founder and president of Ritter Pharmaceuticals. He's joining us on the program to talk about the company, Ritter Pharmaceuticals, give us a little bit of history, and also talk about a recent report on the RPG-28 Phase 2B study that talks about the beneficial adaptation of the gut microbiome. Welcome to the program, Andrew. How are you?
Thank you for having me today.
Give our listeners just a bit of background about yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Sure. Well, I'm the president and co-founder of Ritter Pharmaceuticals. We're a drug development company focusing on developing the first FDA-approved treatment for lactose intolerance. And it's a condition that I actually personally grew up severely suffering from. As a young child, I severely suffered from lactose intolerance, in which if I had any dairy products, I would have severe gastrointestinal symptoms of gas, cramps, bloating, whenever I had dairy products. And so after years of suffering, I decided to contact leading lactose intolerance and GI experts from around the country to develop a better treatment. And this company was founded based on those efforts.
So what were the treatments that you were familiar with before you went on your efforts to develop your own successful treatment?
There's only 3 methods currently available to manage lactose intolerance. You can avoid dairy products, which it's easy to do more easier to do at home, but when you're at restaurants, it's really hard to avoid hidden dairy foods, such as having cream in a soup or in a salad dressing. Mm-hmm. You can take lactose-free foods, such as lactated milk or soy milk, or you can take pills called lactate pills that you can take before your meal. Mm-hmm. Or if you have a hidden dairy product and you don't take the pill before the food, you'll get sick. And so the current options are really limiting for patients suffering from lactose intolerance. There's over 40 million Americans that suffer from lactose intolerance today, and over 1 billion people worldwide that suffer from lactose intolerance. There's a very high prevalence of lactose intolerance in Europe as well as in Asia. And there's not many, these treatment options aren't real treatments for those that suffer.
So is Ritter Pharmaceuticals exclusively involved in lactose intolerance?
Our primary focus today is in lactose intolerance as we're moving into our Phase 3 clinical program for lactose in developing this product for lactose intolerance in the U.S. It's seeking FDA approval for the product, in which we then hope to bring the product globally. Beyond lactose intolerance, we see great potential for our asset in other indications, and we plan in the near future to start further exploring those additional indications.
You spoke about working toward an FDA approval. You're already in Phase 2B of this study.
So we recently completed a Phase 2B clinical study, which is a very large study. It's a 377-subject study in lactose intolerance, multi-center study in 15 centers. It was actually one of the largest clinical studies ever conducted in lactose intolerance. Can you believe that?
Wow, it's amazing.
And in this study, we explored patients and evaluated their symptoms of lactose intolerance and found that a large number of patients dramatically reduced their symptoms in a meaningful way post-treatment compared to before the treatment. Further, we found that those patients on the treatment were consuming more milk and dairy products after taking RPG-28 as well, post-treatment. Let me back up and say that our product, RPG-28, is a one-course treatment. So you take the product once for 30 days, take it for 30 consecutive days, and afterwards you can then tolerate dairy product symptom-free. It's essentially a one-time treatment for lactose intolerance. So you can have ice cream pizza, you can have dairy foods again without having dramatically reduced symptoms when you consume these foods.
So what are some of the side effects, if any, of taking this product for 30 days straight and then being able to tolerate dairy products, you say indefinitely or for a limited amount of time, 6 months, a year, 2 weeks, what?
So the safety profile for this compound so far has been very, very strong. In 2 clinical studies now, we have seen very little to no significant adverse events, and the drug versus placebo performed very similarly when it comes to the safety profile. Mm-hmm. So there's no major safety concerns that we've seen thus far. The product itself, from a durability standpoint of lasting long term, we have evaluated first and foremost through our mechanism of action, which is something we would explain as colonic adaptation. And so how the product works is we believe you take the product and it stimulates growth of lactose metabolizing bacteria in the colon. The healthy bacteria in the colon, it stimulates growth from. And when you consume dairy products, these bacteria help break down the dairy. Mm-hmm. Now, we believe you have a durable experience because as you consume dairy products, the dairy you consume continue to feed these bugs to thrive. And so, all things equal, you maintain these bugs as you consume more dairy products. However, we believe if you have something what we call a gut disruption, or you take antibiotics, or you avoid dairy products for a long period of time, you may need a retreatment. So we project some patients periodically may need to take a retreatment, which is just taking the product again.
So we're not talking about a one-time treatment and then being able to deal with dairy on an actually normal basis. You still have to maintain some dairy in order to maintain the bacteria in the gut. And as you say, if you, a long period of time, say you decide to not do any dairy for 6 months, is that considered a long period of time, or are we talking you don't do any dairy for a couple of weeks after this treatment and then you have to take the treatment again?
You need to really avoid dairy for a long period of time is the expectation.
Okay.
Not just like a week or two. It's not going to be that much of an issue. And in our Phase 3 program coming up, which we expect to launch coming up here in the second quarter of the year, we are exploring durability of treatment in a lot greater fashion. We're going to look at patients and seeing that they can maintain tolerance over a greater period of time, as well as exploring how much milk and dairy products they're consuming during those periods.
Are these, are we talking any type of dairy products or certain dairy products that are manufactured or treated in certain ways, say milks or cheeses, things of that nature? Are there certain ways that they can be treated and still be considered dairy but not be harmful?
You know, every individual that has lactose intolerance has different severity levels and has harder problems or easier times with different foods. And so it's really a person-to-person experience at that level. But what we've found is our program, no matter if you have minor symptoms to severe symptoms, we show that the product helps reduce their symptoms and allows them to consume dairy products again without worrying about those GI symptoms.
Now, in wrapping up, one last question. When it comes to the benefits of this product, does it matter what the age of the consumer may be? Did you test younger children, adolescents, young adults, as well as more mature patients in this extensive study?
Our current studies have been in adults only, and we expect to look at younger ages as we move forward in our clinical program.
And where can we go and learn some more about Ritter Pharmaceuticals and about this brand new product that is soon to be FDA approved?
So you can hear more about our company at ritterpharma.com. That's ritterpharma.com. We provide all our latest information and further details about the company on our website.
Well, thanks for giving us this insight today, and I'm hoping that you'll give us some updates as the Phase 3 studies come out, and FDA approval is just around the corner, I would suspect, yeah?
Well, thank you very much for having me on today.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. Transcripts and audio of the program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in and download at SoundCloud, and be sure and visit our affiliates page at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au.